I never imagined that a 10-year-old pastor could bring someone back to life until I saw it unfold right in front of my eyes. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a hot afternoon, the sun blazing down like 1,000 angry eyes. The air was thick, electric with anticipation. I felt it crawling over my skin. I saw the crowd gather around the little church, whispers bubbling up like a simmering pot. They never questioned him. How could they? He was just a child. Yet somehow, he carried the weight of something greater than us all. Max was different. He had a smile that could break darkness. Those bright blue eyes looked right into your soul, unafraid of the chaos that surrounded him. His small hands trembled as he raised them high, palms open, beckoning the specter of hope. I could almost taste the desperation in the air, bitter and heavy, sticking to the roof of my mouth. I had my doubts. How could a child stand there, claiming the power of life and death? But as I stood there, my heart racing, the question slipped away. I needed anything to believe in. Just days before, tragedy had struck our small town. A beloved teacher, Ms. Williams, had collapsed during recess. I still remember the blaring sirens, the white lights flashing like shooting stars. It hurt to watch. The echo of shocked gasps. The closing of doors. Her lifeless body was draped in silence, and with it, our hopes vanished. But Max insisted there was a chance. He could feel her spirit still lingering, waiting for someone to reach out and pull her back. The way he spoke made even the doubters lean in, lips pursed, eyes glued to him in disbelief. As the sun began to dip lower, the shadows stretched, weaving a web of unease. The air quivered around Max. I felt my insides knot, raw and churning. My stomach twisted with nausea as he stepped closer to the stretcher, hesitating for just a moment. Would he really dare? And then he whispered a prayer. It was soft, barely a breath, but it crackled like thunder. My hands shook, my pulse drummed loud in my ears. The crowd held its breath, glancing at each other, fear mingling with hope. What if he fails? Someone muttered. A ripple of disbelief flowed, but then it happened. A gasp that caught in the air, hearts momentarily halted. The silence became unbearable. And then, a twitch. Just a flicker. Ms. Williams' fingers stirred. I thought I might choke on my breath. Had we all gone mad? Or was there truly something divine happening right before our eyes? Max's face lit up, a glow of determination. But the energy shifted. The reality of loss collided with this impossible moment. I felt a sudden wave of confusion. Hope had become a double-edged sword. Could we really lose again? The tension charged with every heartbeat. The mood was electric, stirring a storm within me. But just as quickly as it began, it seemed to fade. Ms. Williams gasped, her eyes fluttering open. But what came next shattered everything I thought I understood about life and death. Her voice was unrecognizable, a tone filled with an otherworldly chill. "What have you done?" she croaked, and the world around us went completely still. Was this a miracle? Or a curse? The faces around me turned pale, mouths agape. My heart pounded, each beat a question reverberating in the chaotic silence. What had awakened? Was this truly Ms. Williams? And in that moment, clarity turned to confusion. I knew life would never be the same again. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I couldn't shake the feeling as we all stood eerily still, suspended in a moment that felt warped by the strangeness of a reality reborn. Ms. Williams, once so vibrant and full of life, now embodied an essence that permeated the air with a chill, and her eyes, wide and brimming with something other than warmth, stared into the depths of our souls. Max hesitated, fingers hovering above her, a boy amidst a storm he could hardly comprehend. His courage seemed to be waning. The certainty that had radiated from him now fractured into doubts threading through his innocent heart. "Ms. Williams?" he whispered, voice barely breaking the thick tension. "You're back. We were so worried. I saved you." The words hung, heavy and grotesque. Saved? she echoed, each syllable pushed out like a strained breath. The crowd shifted uneasily, the weight of their anticipation morphing into horror. What had this child unleashed? She slowly raised her frail hands, and every gasp that followed was a collective inhalation of dread. My heart raced anew, each beat pounding with the realization that hope could turn monstrous. "What have you done?" she asked again, and an electric surge of confusion snaked through the throngs. I stepped back, as if the very ground beneath us could swallow me whole. There it was again, the potent fear wrapped in uncertainty. A tension wound through the crowd like the serpent of temptation. Max's eyes widened, tears sparkling in their blue depths, and the last vestiges of faith flickered in his expression. He was still a child, grappling with the force of a reality too overwhelming, and I felt the fissures forming not only in our community, but within my spirit as well. Someone from the back cried out, "What did that child do?" Hope curling into desperation, echoing through the gathering as questions erupted. The urgency in their voices was like a flock of birds startled into flight, scattering. I could feel their desperation clawing at me, seeking reassurance from somewhere, anywhere, but I was just as lost, amidst the chaos. Max stepped closer to Ms. Williams. "You came back. You're here." His small voice wobbled, threaded with brave optimism, yet looming over it, a shadow grew. The flicker of hope was quickly eclipsed by an engulfing darkness that draped itself over her figure like a shroud. "That I am here, but not in the way you think," she finally revealed, her voice transforming into something that curled around the words, whispering at the edges of a chilling truth. "I remember your face as I remember my death." It was peaceful. She trembled and shivered, the tone shifting from relief to something I couldn't comprehend. But I felt my connection to the light dim. I felt something pull me back. I clutched my chest. I couldn't breathe. There was something unnatural lingering in the way she carried herself, and for a fleeting moment, I thought of the stories of ancient rites, of hollow shells walking among the living, cursed to roam without purpose. Hope was turning into something terrifying, and I yearned for clarity amidst the darkness swallowing us all. "Who pulled you back?" I dared to whisper, breaking through the murmurs around me. Ms. Williams turned to me, and within her haunted gaze, I saw flickers of something twisted and primal. "Not who," she corrected, her voice a ragged breath. "What?" An unholy silence consumed the crowd once more, the implications settling like a cold fog. Around us, I watched as my neighbors, once caught in a shared grief, turned to fear, eyes darting about as if searching for an escape. But where could we run? This was our home, and now it felt tainted. Suddenly, a soft hand clasped my own, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. Charlie, a girl from my class, stood next to me, her small face a mask of confusion edged with concern. "Is it wrong to want her back?" she asked quietly. I wanted her to be okay. The purity of her question struck me, and I wanted to soothe her worries. So I nodded, squeezing her hand tightly, forcing words into the suffocating silence. "It's okay to want that, but the moment hung there unspoken, suspended like a precarious thread that could snap at any moment. The uncertainty of the situation gnawed at me, opening the floodgates to fear that something had gone terribly wrong. I turned my gaze back to Ms. Williams. The revelation struck me like a dagger. She was still standing at the edge of our reality, a lingering essence that seemed to warp every hope we had nurtured. And despite the whispers of doubt woven through the air, I couldn't help but question if this haunting, dark rebirth was merely the beginning. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the back of the crowd, a figure breaking through. It was the town's sheriff, his face a mask of frantic desperation, eyes wide and filled with dread. "We have reports of disturbances in the woods," he shouted, shockwaves radiating through the throng. "Something unnatural is happening." My heart dropped. The shadows dance on the edges of our reality, a haunting specter in this tale weaving itself deeper into darkness, pulling me and everyone around me into a swirling vortex of unknown terrors. In that moment, under the blaring sun, I knew we would face something far worse than the death we had just unwittingly confronted. And in the heart of it all, perhaps Max was never meant to heal, but awaken. The crowd's once muted whispers erupted into frenzied chatter, panic splintering their hope into chaos. I felt the ground rumble beneath me, echoing the tumult of our community's collective unease. Max stood like a statue, caught between innocence and unbridled terror, while Ms. Williams exuded a chilling presence that twisted the air around us. The sheriff's frantic declaration fell over us like a dark cloud. Disturbances in the woods? An unnatural presence? Those words coiled into a tight knot in my stomach, and I instinctively looked toward the tree line that bordered our town. They loomed like gnarled fingers trying to claw their way into our lives, threatening to pull us into an abyss we could not comprehend. "Stay where you are," the sheriff shouted, his voice ringing out, trying to anchor the hysteria, but it felt futile. The straining shadows on Ms. Williams' face mirrored my own horror. Whatever pulled her back into our midst was not benign. It felt predatory. "How could this happen? How could you come back and bring something with you?" I called out, my voice trembling with urgency. A deep-set fear coursed through me, twisting alongside the flickers of hope that had ignited the air just moments before. Ms. Williams' gaze bore into me, and in it, I saw a reflection of every doubt I had ever harbored. "I didn't come here alone," Ms. Williams confessed, her voice barely a whisper but quickly drowned in the cacophony around us. The community was fracturing, and the echoes of pain hung heavy in the air, amplified by distress. I turned my attention back to Max, who still clung to the thin thread of hope that his beloved teacher's return would herald brighter days ahead. Yet the expression on his face was turning, hope muddied by the swirling uncertainty enveloping us. A loud commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd, where two men were attempting to restrain a woman who was convulsing, words tumbling from her lips in a frenzy. "It's crawling. It wants me," she screamed. "Something's in the woods. It's coming for us." Her terror ignited a new wave of panic as people turned, eyes wide and searching for an exit. Parents snatched their children close, faces twisted with fear, while others stood frozen, caught in the grip of disbelief. "Get her out of here," the sheriff barked, urgency building within him. Determined, he forced his way through the crowd, trying to maintain a sense of order, yet it was slipping from his grasp like sand through fingers. It was then that I felt Charlie's small fingers tighten around mine. "What if it's here because of me?" Max whispered, the weight of guilt rolling off him like dark smoke. He looked clouded, the shadow of our teacher's ambiguous rebirth making him question himself. "No, Max," I said, leaning closer, trying to shield him from the growing storm. "You didn't do anything wrong. You wanted her back. You thought what?" His eyes bore into mine, raw and vulnerable. That it would fix everything, the undeniable truth stung. Perhaps he had dared to wish for a world where the dead could return, where the pain could be erased. But now, his dreams lay heavy beneath the crushing realization that some doors, once opened, could not be closed. "Something is wrong," Ms. Williams stated, her voice suddenly steadier, filled with a resolve that cut through the fear. "We're not safe. We need to gather our strength, set the lines? I interrupted, my brow furrowed. "What lines? What do you mean?" Max blinked at her, words tangling in his throat. "You know how you taught us about the veil and the balance?" "Yes," she replied, her expression stealing into something fierce and primal. "They've tipped it. There are other things, darker things, trying to come through." I was part of it.my mind raced. Every story about folklore and lore told by the town's elderly rushed forward, tales of ancient bindings meant to protect us, to keep the entities in their realm. But if what she said was true, the wall meant to guard us had cracked. The barriers could collapse. Charlie's wide eyes brimmed with tears. "What do we do? How do we stop it?" Her small voice trembled. "Innocence unwinding before the specter of reality. Do we stand together?" Ms. Williams said, lifting her chin, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of the teacher we once knew. "We call upon the connections we have, a warmth of what brings us together, the love, the light." But every fiber of me wanted to scream that love alone wouldn't close the void now yawning open around us. Extremities of darkness were gathering, and one flicker of light would not fend off an entire storm. Suddenly, as if summoned by our very doubts, the woods shook, and a shadow emerged, vast and undulating. It slithered forth, coiling closer, palpable and vicious, as if it sought to sip the very essence of our unified hope. "Run!" the sheriff shouted, now the anchor of chaos. But where could we run when the very ground felt haunted, tinged with dread? In that split moment of despair and urgency, Max turned to me, his voice trembling and yet resolute. "We can do this, right? Together?" But before I could answer, the ground trembled with ominous fury, a twisting vine of darkness released from the depths of our greatest fear. An unholy roar echoed through the hollow, twisting promises of safety into a raw, electric despair. The very fabric of our lives began to unravel before our eyes, leaving us teetering on the precipice of something far out of our control. And in that moment of chaos, I could barely make eye contact with Max, knowing that our unwavering bond would be tested in ways we could never have imagined. But as the darkness advanced, I felt a flicker of courage, a faint whisper perhaps we were not done fighting yet. But what was waiting to be unleashed? My heart raced, my breath quickened, and our fates hung suspended on the edge of that question, a chilling cliffhanger that could lead us straight into our worst horrors. The moments that followed felt like a cruel trick of time. The screams, the cacophony of feet pounding against the ground, and the looming shadow that carved itself into our reality made it hard to breathe. I could barely process what had happened as adrenaline rushed through my veins like ice. Max clutched my arm desperately, his small fingers digging into my skin, but the world around us blurred into a kaleidoscope of fear. "Look," I shouted, trying to be heard over the madness. "We need to get to Ms. Williams. She knows what to do." But directions felt obsolete when the very earth beneath our feet proclaimed the opposite. The crowd was dispersing, driven by panic, but the darkness, it shifted and twirled like a predator, perpetually hungry for the light that was sputtering within us. I caught just a glimpse of Ms. Williams, meeting our eyes with a resolute determination that strengthened my trembling spirit. "We'll make our stand here," she commanded, voice reverberating against uncertainty. Despite the terror, I felt a small flicker of hope swell within me. "Bring them back to me. We can hold the line." Max nodded, energy igniting in his soul as he let go of my arm. "Charlie, stay close," he called, pulling her towards the teacher, toward what felt like a sanctuary amidst the turmoil. Our little trio pressed forward through the throng of humanity that was losing itself to fear, drawn like moths to the last flickering flame. With each step, the shadows clawed at us. I could feel their chill seeping through my clothes, trying to wrap their tendrils around my heart. But we reached her, the energy pulsing from Ms. Williams wrapping around us like an embrace. I knew this wouldn't be easy. "Form a circle," she instructed, her eyes intense with urgency. "We need to remember the bonds that tie us, the love we've shared. It's our strongest weapon." Fueled with a sense of fragile solidarity, we gathered around, hands clasped tightly. Max gripped Charlie's small palm as if it was the one thing keeping him from drifting into the darkness. I could see the flames of fear flickering in their beautiful, innocent faces, but we had to believe that someone within us had the power to push back. "Close your eyes and think of the times that held us steady," Ms. Williams commanded, her voice steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. "The laughter, the love, the hope you felt, bring it to the forefront. Let it create a barrier." I closed my eyes, trying desperately not to be swallowed by the dread clawing at my insides. Memories of picnics by the river, evenings watching the sunset paint the sky with warmth, birthday parties bursting with joy flooded my mind. I felt the echoes of laughter swell in my chest, and it intertwined with the heartbeat of those around me, forming a tapestry of light. Then suddenly, the ground shook violently. Our once solid connection began to tremble underfoot, as if the very foundations of what held us together were splintering. I could feel darkness sneaking into our circle, swirling hungrily, testing our resolve. "Don't let go," I cried out, opening my eyes to see fear mirrored in my friends' faces, but their grip remained firm. My heart thudded against my ribs, the need to protect them battling the suffocating despair that threatened to envelop us all. "It's coming. Whatever it is, it's getting stronger," Max shouted, panic slipping into his voice. The shadows hurled themselves at our circle, trying to rip apart our bonds forged in shared moments of light. "We have to push back," Ms. Williams exclaimed, "with the strength of our love," but the darkness swarmed closer, a mass of writhing energy. I felt its icy breath on my skin, the dread tightening in my throat. What if it's too late? What if it's already too strong? I whispered, My fear creeping back before I could catch it, the blinding light erupted from our joined hands, pushing against the encroaching darkness. It was a flicker at first, a candle against the storm, but we fed it with our collective memories, our laughter, the love we felt for each other. Just when it seemed hope might carve an opening, the shadows fell upon us with overwhelming ferocity and despair. We staggered back, hands slipping, fractures appearing in our fragile circle. Max. Charlie's voice cracked as she stumbled, fear pooling in her wide eyes. What do we do? Before I could react, a figure emerged from the murky depths of despair, a dark silhouette with an unmistakable aura, drawing nearer with a malevolent elegance. It's gone, it's too late, I gasped, dread solidifying like iron in my chest. But then, clarity pierced my chaotic thoughts. This shadow moved with a knowing grace, as if it was searching for something, someone lost within the fray. And in that terrifying moment, I felt a deep-rooted certainty blossom within me. Not all was lost, not yet. Together, Ms. Williams shouted, her voice resonating through my soul. Together we can do this. In that instant, something shifted. I took a deep breath, gathering every shred of courage that lingered, holding tightly to the light, our laughter, our bonds. The flicker in my heart ignited anew, yearning to be shared. But as the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that sent shockwaves of recognition through me, dread spiraled into confusion. It was her, the very spirit we had hoped to reclaim, but now, her presence loomed heavy with shadows that felt predatory and consuming. Was this the teacher who had inspired us? Or something darker, a manifestation of our deepest fears come to life? As the walls around me began to tremble and crack, my heart dropped. Was this truly the end, or was the cycle about to begin anew? Before I could grasp the implications, her eyes met mine with a chilling certainty, whispering the unfathomable question that now hung suspended in the air. Are you ready to pay the price? Hope and despair warred within me, leaving my breath caught in my throat as we faced the palpable unknown, teetering on the edge of something greater than ourselves. The air crackled with tension, heavy as if the very atmosphere was aware of the monumental choice hovering over us. Ms. Williams's once comforting presence now felt like a bittersweet memory, warped and tinged with shadows that threatened to consume everything we had fought so hard to protect. Can we even trust her? I thought, my mind racing through the implications. The figure stood before us, her features illuminated in the flickering light, yet the endless abyss in her gaze stirred a turmoil deep within me. What if she's our undoing? Max's grip faltered, his small fingers trembling against Charlie's hand. What does she mean, the price? He quavered, casting a glance at me as if searching for reassurance. My heart ached for him. His innocence should never have had to grapple with the darkness gathering around us. I turned to Ms. Williams, desperate for guidance. The determination I had seen moments prior now flickered, her eyes narrowing as they examined the figure that had once inspired us. We must tread carefully, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the swirling shadows. The tension clung to our skin like ice, each second stretching into eternity. Step forward. If you seek the truth, the dark semblance beckoned, voice smooth yet laced with menace. Each word seemed to physically tug at the frayed edges of our resolve, and I could feel the air thicken, pressing in around us. Not without answers, I shouted, trying to summon courage amidst the chaos that roared deep inside me. Speech felt like an exercise in futility as I tried to hold receding hope close. Tell us what you want from us. Is this about providing the light, or will you just snuff it out? For too long you have lingered in the shadows of doubt, she replied, a flicker of something sadness crossing her features. You seek to regain what was lost, but sacrifice comes with a cost. The gravity of her words weighed down, wrapping around me like iron chains. Images of laughter, late-night talks, and even the quiet moments of warmth between friends passed through my mind, now tainted with uncertainty. What was I willing to sacrifice? Is it worth everything we've built? I thought, a shiver running down my spine as I glanced at Charlie. Her small frame trembled beneath the weight of fear, yet within her gaze was a hint of defiance, a mirror reflecting my own dwindling hope. That I asked this why you're here? Charlie spoke, her voice surprisingly steady despite the palpable fear floating in the air. To take what light we have left? You're only bringing more suffering. Before she could finish speaking, the shadows around us twisted, pulsating with a life of their own, as if responding to her challenge. The darkness began to pull away from the edges, momentarily revealing fragments of light that flickered like dying stars. And in that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of vulnerability of a love worth saving. But at what cost? Enough. Ms. Williams stepped forward, protective and fiery. We are not here to bargain with shadows. We choose to fight for our light, and that is what we offer. The darkness surging toward us hesitated, almost bewildered by her defiance. I could feel the power of her words rippling through our small circle. Perhaps hope could pierce through this palpable dread after all. Stay strong. I encouraged Max and Charlie, even as a part of me felt the fear tightening within my chest. Maybe her challenge had weakened the shadows, just for a breath in time. Maybe there was room for us to fight back. Then the figure's expression shifted, morphing into a ghost of familiar warmth. Her face a tapestry stitched together with fleeting memories that rushed back like an ocean wave crashing over me. The echo of laughter lingered in the corners of my mind, faces from our past. Kindness wrapped in ages gone by. Trust lies in your hands. Love comes with risk. If you recall the beauty of what was lost, accept the price of what truly matters. Stand together in your unity, and I will return to you the lost fragments of your hope. The words floated through the air, resonating like a chorus of wishes. Both tender and menacing. That we have to decide now. I cried, panic knotting in my stomach. The shadows shimmered as if sensing the indecision sweeping over us. Would we dare to stand together against this darkness? Charlie's small voice broke through. What if we lose everything? I could hear the tremor of fear entangled with uncertainty, and it broke my heart. No. Remember what we've fought for, I shouted, holding on to the flicker of hope ignited by our shared memories, urging them to see it too. Together, we are stronger than the darkness that tries to divide us. Max took a deep breath, courage blooming within his eyes. We can't let it take us. My heart surged at his unwavering spirit. We have to believe that love is worth it. Charlie looked from Max to me, her gaze fierce, teetering on the edge of resolve. I believe in us, she declared, squeezing our hands tightly. The shadows twisted and coiled, sensing the cementing of our connection, as if drawn away by our unity. The figure wavered, and for a moment, I thought I discerned fear hidden in her eyes. Then, the darkness surged back, more powerful and ominous than before, overwhelming us with a rush. I tried to shout, to warn them, but the chaos swept through the air, the shadows engulfing even the breath of hope that clung to my lips. Suddenly, within the maelstrom of darkness came a voice, not of the figure, but from the depths of my own heart. What are you willing to do for love? Before I could process the question, a chilling realization struck me like lightning. Perhaps the price to be paid was more than we had bargained for. Perhaps it was never about reclaiming the light, but wholly embracing its absence. And as I felt my knees begin to quake, the ground beneath us rumbling anew, I understood we were on the precipice of a choice that could change our lives forever. Would we step forward into the unknown, or be swept away by the shadows clamoring for our souls? In the lingering silence that followed, the air felt heavier, and for the first time, I found myself utterly unprepared for what lay ahead. As the darkness thickened around us, I could almost hear the echoing question reverberate through space as the shadows whispered, "Are you really ready to pay the price?" The shadows dissolved into a deep silence that felt alive, vibrating with the weight of our unmade choices. My heart raced, caught between fear and a flicker of determination that forced me to draw in a breath. What if it's a test? I thought. The uncertainty churned in my gut, thickening the air until it was nearly unbearable. Ms. Williams stood firm, a rock amidst the storm, yet I noticed even her intricate resolve was faltering. What have I done? I could almost hear her thinking, as if each moment of defiance against the shadows pulled her deeper into their despair. What if my strength isn't enough? Then came the first tremors, small yet telling, skittering up from the very ground beneath us. It felt as if the earth itself was in turmoil. Was it recognizing our fear? Or perhaps it was responding to the very essence of our choice, teetering on the edge of hope and despair. Maybe we should reconsider, Max whispered, his eyes wide, glancing between me and Charlie. What if this is dangerous? Charlie's strong grip on my hand waned, uncertainty clouding her once fierce determination. What if we can't go back? She murmured, her voice trembling as shadows flickered in her gaze. The dark figure, still lurking just outside our grasp, watched with eyes polished in shadows. I felt as if she were absorbing all our doubts, growing stronger with each whisper of fear. It doesn't have to be like this, I thought desperately, searching for words that could weave hope back into the fabric of our camaraderie. The enormity of the unseen sacrifice loomed like a specter and anchor pulling us down into unknown depths that MS. Williams, I shouted, the urgency pressing against my chest like a vice. What do we need to hold on to? We must remember why we are here. Her gaze lifted, a flicker of recognition sparking in her eyes. Yes, the love we have fought for, she exclaimed, her voice gaining strength as she turned toward the shadows. We choose to embrace it. I felt Max's hand tightening around mine, as if he fed off her fervor. We believe in each other, he declared, his voice steady, chasing the cobwebs of fear away, but the shadows recoiled momentarily, sensing the shift, then lunged back, swallowing that warmth whole. I gasped as shadows slithered closer until they were nearly tangible, curling around our feet like frozen snakes. Suddenly, I was struck by a haunting sound, soft, drumming, an echo of laughter slicing through the heavy atmosphere. It was a music filled with life and joy, the kind that had once cocooned us in blissful memories. Those moments flickered like fireflies trying to illuminate the dark. Remember, Ms. Williams urged, her voice breaking slightly. Faith is a tether, love our guide. We cannot let this darkness cloud our hearts. We have each other, and the beauty we've created. The haunting laughter echoed again, more robust, filling the crevices of uncertainty. I closed my eyes and desperately grasped that whimsical sound, urging it to arise within us. It was a reminder of our friendship, our shared moments, and the laughter that had once bound us together. As I breathed it in, I could see their faces, loved ones lost, friends cherished, a world painted in strokes of warmth. My heart leapt as I whispered, we won't surrender. We have to trust in our love and in the memories that won't ever fade. Oh, my astonishment. A brilliant light began to pierce through the darkness, not blinding, but warm, a beacon of our resolve, burgeoning from the very essence of our unity. It wrapped around us, illuminating the fringes of the shadows, which flickered and twisted in discomfort. Hold on, Ms. Williams shouted, each one of us feeling the shimmer of hope intermingling with dread. Together, we will break through the weight of this darkness. Yet, even as the glow scintillated, doubt curled back into my mind. What sacrifice awaited us? Could love break the chains of fear binding us? Or did that very love carry a cost too great for any of us to bear? The ground shook again, more violently this time, cracks spidering out like fractals through solid earth. And as the fading shadows loomed behind us, I faced the twisted figure once more, heart pounding in my chest. What will you take from us? I shouted, desperate for clarity, breathless with the unknown. That I in a move more fluid than human. She leaned in, her dark figure coiling closer, until I could feel the impending danger against my skin. Then, prepare yourselves, she hissed, voice like ice slipping through fingers. The price has already begun. Then, as if in response to her chilling proclamation, a shockwave erupted from the ground, a swell of wind spiraling around us like a tempest. My heart lurched as an ominous whisper threaded through my mind. What are you willing to lose to bring forth the light? In that moment, it dawned on me the inevitability of the challenge. The choice wasn't simply if we faced the darkness, but rather what darkness lay within each of us. With that realization, I braced myself for what was about to become abundantly clear. And just as the darkness threatened to swallow us whole, the heartbeat of shadow, the flicker of light, the two collided within the heart of my being. I could feel the threshold of unveiling looming larger than the shadows that ensnared us. Stay close, I screamed, clinging fiercely to Max and Charlie as the world spun. And in that chaotic moment, our fragile hope began to unravel even before we could grasp what it meant to fight back, threatening to consume us all. A blinding light engulfed us, a kaleidoscope of colors sprouting from the heart of our intertwined hope and fear. I could feel the warmth wrapping around my body, yet the shadows pulsed and twisted in fierce defiance. The moment was electric, crackling with potential. But as I braced for the inevitable clash, doubt clung to my heart like frost. How do you fight something that knows your fears intimately? Think of the laughter, the moments that made us real, Miss Williams yelled, but her voice felt distant, diminished against the onslaught of chaos. Hold on to each other. I felt Charlie's fingers slip, the warmth of our connection waning as fear crept through that very hold. I can't, she gasped, breath hitching as if the shadows were literally squeezing the air from her lungs. That I know. I cried, grasping for her hand again. We are stronger together. The tempest churned around us, an unrelenting force threatening to tear us apart. I closed my eyes, trying to conjure the images of joy, the memories we had shared in laughter. But in the storm, I found myself confronting darker memories, betrayals, doubts, fears that lingered like a vulture waiting for a moment of weakness. Why weren't you there when I needed you? A voice inside me roared, echoing with heartbreak and betrayal. It was the voice of my own insecurities, reminding me of the times I felt invisible, like a ghost drifting through a life that never truly embraced me. Breathe, Ms. Williams shouted over the swell. Focus on what matters. In that urging, an ember flared. The pastor, the child, I whispered, the memory of a 10-year-old with wide-eyed belief flooding through my mind. He had stood against unfathomable sorrow and emerged shining, a beacon of faith amidst chaos. I remembered his words, simple yet profound. Love is the greatest miracle, Max. Charlie, I yelled as clarity broke through the fog of despair. Think of that child. Think of who we are fighting for. A flicker of recognition passed through Max's eyes, that slow-burning fire of hope igniting. That's it. We can't let them take our light, Max shouted, rallying the ground beneath our feet. We are not just fighting for ourselves, but for the ones we love. In the midst of the tumbling chaos, our hands entwined tighter, not just as a feeble attempt to hold on, but as a collective force. The shadows recoiled, sensing the shift in our energy. With every heartbeat, I felt the vibrational heartbeat of our unity pulsing defiantly against the darkness. Yet amidst the resurgence, fear still lurked, casting long shadows even in the face of our collective strength. My gaze shifted to the dark figure lurking at the edges, her hunger palpable. She was feeding off our strife, thriving on uncertainty. Can you even hold on? She taunted, her voice a razor's edge slicing through my resolve. You are all too weak to withstand this storm, no. I roared back, my spirit rising to meet her challenges with unexpected fierceness. We don't need to be strong all the time. Our love is our strength. As if my declaration had conjured the very fabric of hope. The wind gusted, weaving through our grasp and swirling around the being of shadow, taunting it with flickers of our collective warmth. The light began to shimmer, weaving between us as if it were our shared memories. Stay with me, Charlie cried, her eyes reflecting a rebellion against despair. And in that moment of fragile clarity, I realized that the downfall I feared could not overpower our shared dreams. I let go of the darker memories, casting them aside like autumn leaves falling from a tree. I could sense a clarity that let me remain focused on the laughter of the child. It was the heartbeat of love, a force potent enough to pierce even the darkest night. Suddenly, the tremors intensified, sending us crashing to our knees. The light no longer bound burst forth, illuminating the dark with vibrant colors. Heart pounding, I dared to glance back at the twisted figure, who now seemed vulnerable, the shadows flickering around her as if struggling to maintain their form. But as our hopes surged, a sickening thought crept in. What would happen if that hope shattered? What was left unspoken? Did we have enough to withstand the dark tide that sought to drown us? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, the ground quaked, and the shadows rushed forward like a tidal wave, threatening to consume us entirely. We can't let go, I shouted, bracing myself for the impact, heart racing as if I were defying fate itself. Just then, a voice broke through the uproar, soft but firm. Do not fear, for love will weave the fabric of your salvation. It was the voice of the child we had once known, its purity cutting through the echoes of chaos that in that moment, I felt a sudden surge of power, as if the very threads of my thoughts began to weave a tapestry of light around us. building from the remnants of faith the child had instilled in me. Every joyous memory began to flow from my heart to my hands, transforming into vibrant threads of luminescence. But then, just as we began to draw strength from the light, a shattering scream erupted from the dark figure. "You think you can escape? Lives will be lost." Her eyes burned with fiery wrath as she lunged forward, and for an instant, I blinked, caught off guard by her intensity. Then, as if the world was coming undone, the shadows surged, and right before my eyes, the air crackled with energy, creating a rift that left me gasping at the precipice. The darkness howled, leaning in with all its weight, threatening to swallow the very essence of who we were. "What do you cherish most?" the shadow demanded, a grotesque grin stretching across its icy visage. Each of us stood suspended in that moment, teetering on the brink of discovery and loss. I realized the price was greater than we had imagined, and a breathtaking horror filled me. Our deepest fears were not merely phantoms to banish, but the very things that could bind us in chains of light or drag us into an abyss. "Answer me, and I shall grant you freedom," it hissed, its words curling into the recesses of my mind like ivy threatening to steal the light from my soul. And as I looked at Charlie and Max, waiting for our answer that could change everything, I whispered, "It's all or nothing, isn't it?" The words fell heavy on the air. A moment stretched infinitely as I braced for the revelation that would either liberate us or unravel our fragile union completely. A single heartbeat remained before each truth would demand its rightful sacrifice. The tension in the air crackled like a live wire, a force threatening to split us apart at our very seams. I felt the weight of the moment, laden with unspoken fears and the flicker of hope, oscillating between freedom and suffocation. Charlie's eyes searched mine, wide and bright with uncertainty, but filled with an unmistakable spark of trust. Max stood steadfast beside us, his jaw set with a fierce determination that mirrored my own. And yet, still, there were whispers threading through the chaotic tempest the shadows were reeling, their dark energy twining ever closer, demanding our truths as if they were the very lifeblood that fed their malevolence. My mind raced, trapped in a loop that sought an elusive escape while chaos danced around us, beckoning in mockery. The shadow's voice rang out clearer, more insistent. "What do you cherish most?" It was as if I felt my heart lurch in response, drawn towards something just out of reach. In a split second, an image of the 10-year-old pastor flashed vividly in my mind. The child, his laughter echoing like chimes on a warm summer day. The way he had faced insurmountable odds with a fierce glimmer in his eyes, embodying unwavering faith. Suddenly, the weight of my memories tumbled forward, and with them came fragments of the hope I had thought lost. "I cherish the light we've built together," I shouted, the conviction slamming into my chest with a force as reckless as a storm. Max nodded, his voice rising alongside mine. "And I cherish loyalty, the bonds we've forged through trials and tribulations." Charlie squeezed my hand, as if to affirm the strength of our shared truth. "I cherish love, not just romantic love, but the kind that embraces like a blanket. The love that guides us through the darkest nights." As our declarations hung in the air, the shadows recoiled momentarily, as though stinging from the purity of our unified resolve. But the dark figure snapped back into focus, rage twisting her features into a grotesque mask. "Love, loyalty, light. Huh. Such fragile things. You think they will save you? We've stood against you before." I yelled defiantly, adrenaline coursing through my veins, feeding the conviction that rose from the depths of despair. "You don't know us at all." The swirling vortex of darkness hesitated, and for a heartbeat, I thought Wedge struck a chord. It twisted, flicking impatient fingers through the air, trying to reclaim its grip on our fears. "Try again, then. Give me your most hidden truths, and it'll show you how fragile the bonds truly are." A chill crept through me. What would I have to give? The shadows tugged gently at the corners of my mind, whispering fears I had buried deep. As if pulled from a jar of old memories, images flooded back, doubts about my worth, feelings of isolation that crept in like ghosts haunting my very existence. Did I dare expose those moments? Would you sacrifice your deepest insecurities? The shadow crooned, wrapping each word around me like a snake tightening its grip. Would you betray your hearts to preserve the flicker of hope? No, I shouted resolutely. You want to twist us into who we're not. In that moment, the ground beneath us trembled violently, as if it was mirroring the conflict within. The darkness crashed toward us, a menacing wave, before revealing a flicker of the realization that we were not our fears. We were the courage to face them. Together, I cried out, barely able to hear the sounds of the world around me. But beneath my fearless facade, a new fear crept in, the reality that we might not retrieve our truths unscathed. What if unveiling them meant sacrificing pieces of ourselves? Moments stretched as a creeping dread trickled down my spine. I remembered the pastor again, how he had embraced his own vulnerability. He taught me that sharing my darkness could only amplify the light. My words spilled out, tinged with unsteady hope, urging Charlie and Max forward. Max's brow furrowed, a contemplation brewing behind his steadfast gaze. I could see the gears turning in his mind. What if I told you that I have always been the least bit of courage? He whispered, his voice broken yet earnest. That I've always hidden behind the shadows, afraid to step into my light. Me too, Charlie echoed, her voice gaining strength amidst the tremors. I feared I would always be second-rate, never good enough, that maybe I would lose everyone I loved the moment I let them see my true self. These confessions wrapped us tighter than any embrace, tethering us like vines intertwining in a great storm. With each revelation, I could feel the shadows recoil, the dark figure faltering as fragments of light began to weave a new tapestry around us. Then came the wrenching revelation, a staggering force tumbling through my veins. I never imagined that a 10-year-old pastor could bring someone back to life until he was the very reflection of the light we are fighting for. My heart thundered, a beating echo of faith. When we cry into the abyss, we realize we are tethered not by fear, but by the depth of our love for each other. At those words, the shadow squirmed, fury erupting like a volcano. You think you can play the game of emotions? You think each word can break me? Our circle tightened, even as I felt fear seep into my bones. Yes, I declared, every truth we embrace makes us stronger. If we must face you to find ourselves, we shall. But just as I braced for the consequences, the air shifted violently. The rift pulsated dangerously, a pulsating reminder of what was at stake. You do not even know what you are truly risking, the shadow hissed. Before I could respond, the ground lurched, and Max stumbled, losing balance. His eyes locked onto something behind me. Gasping, I whipped around, my heart plunging as I beheld an image sweeping through the rift. A familiar little figure stood there, ethereal and bright against the backdrop of shadows, the 10-year-old pastor, reaching toward us with open arms. And then the chilling realization hit, like ice-cold water. The truth, the sacrifice, the cost of our courage became starkly evident. In our deepest moment of hope, what if that child, who embodied our love, was the key, not just to our salvation, but to a far greater danger we had yet to face? Wait, I called, fear seeping back in. What are you doing here? The knowing gleam in his eyes flickered, a beacon in the overwhelming darkness. I came to remind you why you fight, and to show you that love is the most powerful force, but it always comes with a cost. It was then that I truly understood. We had been summoned not just to wield our love against darkness, but to confront the sacrifices entwined in the orbit of our hearts. My breathing quickened, a visceral terror rippling through me. What would we relinquish for the chance to preserve what we held dear? The answer was just beginning to surface, tangled like smoke, waiting to be unveiled in the treacherous dance of light and shadow. Would our bonds hold, or would we be consumed by the very love that had brought us here, risking everything in search of something we could barely grasp? In the heart of an uncertain storm, we stood teetering on the precipice of revelation, and I realized that the cost of our light was about to rear its head in unimaginable ways. The air shimmered with an electrifying charge, each heartbeat echoing in the silence that hung between us. The small, luminous figure of the 10-year-old pastor stood amidst swirling shadows, innocence radiating from him as he beckoned us forward. It was a juxtaposition that no one could ignore, the embodiment of hope standing firm against a tide of malevolence, yet bearing the burden of our unacknowledged fears. The pastor's gaze swept over us. A strange comfort washed through me. Yet the gravity of his presence compelled an undeniable weight to settle deep within my chest. "You stand at a crossroads," he spoke, his voice a melody that sliced cleanly through the storm. "The path you take now will shape the very fabric of your souls." I glanced at Charlie and Max, their faces a tapestry of bewilderment and resolve. Each limbed tension mirrored the tempest within me. "Path," I echoed, grappling with the implication. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, light illuminating the darkness, threatening to envelop us. "You are fighting for one another, for love, but love demands honesty, baring the soul and exposing the shadows lurking within." His words sliced deep, as though he had unearthed the very fears I tried to bury. The shadows slithered closer, whispering temptations laden with dread. "Every secret shared will splinter the bonds you hold dear. Each truth you speak might unravel the fabric of your connection." A shadow hissed, resounding with malice, a proclamation aimed to stir the deepest fears within us. A surge of conflicted emotions surged within me. Yes, I craved liberation from the chains of my own anxieties, but at what cost? Would revealing my darkest truths strip away the barbed wire of our collective strength? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to embrace vulnerability, the pastor urged again, strong and steady. His faith in us glimmered as brightly as the light that surrounded him, igniting a flicker of courage in my core. "You fear losing yourself, yet in sharing your burden, you may find a love even stronger." Max took a small step forward, his eyes piercing and full of new resolve. "What if we share our truths together?" He proposed carefully, voice steady, yet trembling with the weight of his own fear. "If we support each other, perhaps we can face whatever comes next." The shadows stirred, uneasy. "Support? Love? How quaint. You are mere children, blinded by dreams, thinking your connections can shield you from the truth." It was the dark figure, now cloaked in disdain, peeling back layers of our facade with cold precision. Charlie drew back, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "But if every bond is fragile, how can we depend on anything? What if this trust means nothing? What if you're right?" My heart quaked at the ripple of doubt that passed between us. It resonated with memories of moments where I felt weak, like sand slipping through my fingers. But the warmth radiating from the pastor's light reassured me. Love is a reflection of vulnerability. The more you give, the more you receive. "It might hurt," he paused, eyes softening, "but it is the only path worth taking." His words hit me like a cascade of soft rain, carving paths into hardened earth. "You don't know what will happen." I threw back, fervently casting my gaze between Max and Charlie, a desperate plea echoing in my chest. "What if we lose each other?" The pastor smiled, and in that moment, everything around us stilled. "You might break apart temporarily to reveal the truth, but each shattering will forge a stronger bond once mended. However, the choice must be made willingly." It was as if I was staring at a vast, mysterious landscape, twinkling beautifully yet laden with veiled pitfalls. Could we confront our vulnerabilities and lay them bare not as a test, but as a testament to the bond we fought to protect? With every tick of time pressing down upon us, scanning the silent vulnerability in Max's eyes and the dread in Charlie's gaze, I made my decision. "Let's do it," I said firmly, every syllable igniting sparks of bravery. "We face our truths together, no matter the risk." Charlie nodded, brave yet frightened. "Then let's strip away all that divides us and forge ahead, hand in hand into this uncertain light." Max stepped forward, grip tightening around my hand. "Whatever comes, I won't let go. We'll make it through this." And as each of us resolved to leap into the unknown depths of our vulnerabilities, I felt a swell of strength ripple through our shared connection. Our insecurities crackled in the air, yet the warmth of love encased us, emboldening us to press forward. It was then that I heard it, a soft whisper, almost like an echo deep within me. Love transcends. It caressed the edges of my consciousness. But before I could grasp it, the shadows lunged with venomous fury, unleashing the storm they had so carefully orchestrated all along. That I felt the ground shift violently beneath us again. Charlie gasped, stumbling backward, the flickering light from the pastor flickering dangerously. Watching, I could sense something dire was uncoiling from beyond, a tendril of shadow distinctly intent on severing our courage. And oh, I shouted instinctively, lunging to grab Charlie as she teetered dangerously on the cusp of an abyss. But at that moment, a deafening roar erupted from the darkness, shattering our collective resolve and sending pieces of our fragmented hearts spiraling in countless directions. And standing amongst the chaos, the figure of the 10-year-old pastor shimmered for just an instant before the shadows surged forward, engulfing him entirely. My heart thundered with dread, something precious lost in the brutal vortex. "What have we done?" I whispered, the terror coursing through me, palpable and stinging. The pivotal moment we had chosen in vulnerability had not only rattled our foundations, but it had drawn forth a far greater enigma than we were prepared to confront. Though the light had revealed our truths, in that very instant, I realized we were now facing the unimaginable cost of courage. Would it be our undoing? The chaos that unfolded was nothing short of a tempest, a collision of light and dark, love and fear, as the world around us tilted precariously on the edge of calamity. I felt the shadows closing in, suffocating in their grip, forcing every fragment of hope within me to quaver. Charlie stumbled, her frightened eyes searching for me as if grounding herself in the chaos swirling just beyond our grasp. "What just happened?" she gasped, confusion and dread etching her features. That I didn't have the answers. Pain lanced through my gut, the weight of the 10-year-old pastor's sacrifice hanging heavy in the air. I began, but the darkness sharpened its claws, erupting in a swirling vortex that threatened to consume everything we shared. The very essence of our connection was fraying. Was it worth acknowledging our fears if it meant losing what we fought for? "We can't let go," Max cried out, his voice rising above the storm. "We have to stand together." His determination struck a chord, igniting a flicker of courage within me. Clenching my fists, I focused on the warmth radiating from our shared bond and reached for Charlie's hand, feeling her trembling fingers intertwining with mine. Whatever we must face, we face it together. No more shadows between us. But the very ground beneath quaked, the dark figure coiling back, and I could see it now, an ominous yet familiar energy pulsing behind the veil. "You all seek connection, yet you are piecing together a tapestry woven from shards of fear," it hissed, malice drenching its cold words. "Stop," I screamed defiantly, my heart pounding in rhythm with my resolve. "We are more than our fears. Together, we are stronger than this." And as if drawn forth by my words, memories surged like a tidal wave. A cacophony of laughter rose within me, a chorus of joy, light shared over a school picnic, echoes of summertime sunsets, the warm embrace of kindness from all corners. "Remember those moments, Charlie, Max," I cried amidst the chaos. "They are our strength, our light." With each recollection, the shadows crackled and recoiled, as if touched by the very essence of what we cherished. The figure before us flickered, shadows twisting and bending into shapes of uncertainty, their power waning against the brilliance of our united hearts. "Look, it's weakening," Max shouted, his voice now vibrant and alive with confidence. Each word wove between us like a spell, breathing life to our courage. But the darkness was not finished. It lunged forward, seeking to extinguish the warmth of our bond. "You think you can withstand my might?" it rasped. "You are just children playing a game far beyond your comprehension." No. Charlie interjected, her voice steady like the unwavering arms of a guardian. "We've found our truth, and it's stronger than your shadows." She held her chin high, eyes aflame with determination. Max and Charlie stood with me, a ripple pulsed through the air, our energies mixing like a vibrant tapestry. The memories wove together, creating a shield of shimmering light around us, emanating warmth that chased the darkness back. But then, the ominous whisper sliced through, cold and creeping. "What will you give to protect these bonds?" "Everything is about sacrifice," I gasped, realization washing over me. The shadows could see the fissures within us, the insecurities we kept hidden. Heart slamming in my chest, I took a breath as uncertainty tumbled through my mind. What must we lose? The question echoed, melding into the very fabric of my being. That if we must sacrifice to save the light, I breathed, pulling strength from the unity surrounding me. Then I will risk my own fears. Laughter erupted from the shadows, but the warmth within our circle only deepened. "Sacrifice will cost more than you know," It had the audacity to taunt. Your precious connections are lined with secrets, regrets that will fracture under pressure that I don't care. I interjected, a wave of confidence surging through me. Our love is worth the risk. I will expose my fears before I let you win. I turned to Charlie, determination igniting within me. I'm scared of losing everyone I love, of being behind walls that keep me confined. But together we can face anything. Then I faced Max, whose unwavering spirit matched my own. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. So yes, I will sacrifice my fears. A shimmering light encircled us as our resolutions soared, rising above the darkness. I will join you, Max declared, voice fierce, memories flashing in his eyes. I fear being alone more than anything. I will risk that fear to protect what we have. As Max's words filled the air, Charlie followed, and I will strip away my masks, trade my insecurities for something real. I won't be afraid to be seen anymore. With our truths laid bare, the shadows faltered, clawing back as if we had ignited a beacon. Each declaration, a hammer against the shackles binding us, further solidified our bond. The spectral figure of the dark entity shimmered, losing its grip in the wake of our unity. What are you doing? It shrieked, panic woven amidst its bile. You think your bonds can hold against me? Yes. We cried in unison, voices ringing out in harmony. The response pulsed with urgency, pulling our sorrows into a resonating light. We are one. A cacophony roared through the abyss as the beams of light burst forth, cascading toward the shadow like the dawn dispelling night. The void trembled, shadows dissipating in a cosmic dance, as our collective truths carved pathways of strength, illuminating the path ahead. But just then, an eerie silence filled the air, an unsettling pause that felt alive enough to make me shiver. The twinkling lights dimmed momentarily as a thought broke through, a question hung heavy in the air. What if the cost is more than we can bear? And then, clarity struck. The answers awaited us in the silence as we stood together, hands tightly clasped, hearts beat as one. Love underpinned our fears and insecurities, not as weaknesses to be exploited, but as gateways leading to something transformative. Every truth revealed was a catharsis, an alchemical shift, transforming despair into compassion. And as the wave of shadows receded, swirling into nothingness, we emerged through the chaos stronger than fate itself, with a light that would forever change us. That I in that moment. Understanding cascaded through me, wrapping around every single one of us. This was not merely a battle against darkness. It was a vivid dance with every flicker of our humanity. The real triumph lay in how we chose to embrace the complexities of our bonds, brave enough to unearth our truths amidst the swirling shadows. And as the last vestiges of darkness faded away into the unseen abyss, the warmth resonating in my heart at the embrace of our unity lingered, a reminder that our love, fragile yet fierce, could indeed withstand the darkest nights. And all at once, wrapped in the tapestry we wove together, we breathed as one. The shadows had not stolen us. Instead, they had birthed a deeper connection forged through the flames of vulnerability, pushing us toward a future painted in hues of unwavering love. Together, we stepped forward into the light, aware that even in the darkest of times, our gratitude would shine brighter than any shadow ever could, proclaiming our existence as a testament to something unbreakable. And, in that beautiful realization, I knew our journey, full of heartache, fear, love, and resilience, had just begun. All around us was a dawning prowess, a surge of realization that could only echo the strength we unlocked together, a fierce reminder that love, even amidst uncertainty, is always worth the fight. I glanced at my friends. We shared a knowing smile. In the heart of it all, a single truth resonated fiercely. The sacrifices made along the way, however painful, were but stepping stones leading us to an unshakable bond. And standing there, I whispered a powerful thought, a vow ignited from the very depths of my being. We will always be more than our fears together. We will always find our way back to the light.